Welcome to Contributors Corner. Shannon Waller, it's so great to have you back. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm delighted to be here.
Okay, we're going to talk about how to build great teams. And we've got our other contributors joining us, Dr. Stel Nikolakakis, André Brisson, and James Bryant. Let's introduce the contributors, and then Shannon, I'll turn it over to you. Dr. Stel, let's start with you. Who you are, what you do.
Thanks, Mark. My name is Dr. Stel Nikolakakis. I'm a neurovisual optometrist by profession. My tagline is I help people discover their vision, or I change lives through vision. I'm also a coach to help people discover their full potential.
All right, James.
All right, my name is Dr. James Bryant. I am the founder and owner of Engineer Your Success, an executive coaching and leadership development firm. We help engineers and people with a STEM background design and live a life where they are winning at work and at home. And it is my pleasure to be here with you today.
All right, good to have you, James. André.
My name is André Brisson, the impulsive thinker. I have founded Objective Engineering, where we engineer simplicity objectively, and also coaching ADHD entrepreneurs with tactical breakthroughs from the impulsive thinker. And always a pleasure to come here and yak it up with these fine, smart people.
I love it. So Shannon, with Strategic Coach, you have dedicated a lot of your professional life to understanding what makes great teams and then teaching that to others. You've written books on it. You've taught thousands of people. Shannon, I'm curious, why and when did you decide to make team building your primary focus?
That's a great question. It goes back to when I was in my early 20s and considering what to do in university. And I've always been fascinated by people, but people in business. Like, my mom has a master's in psychology, and I swear to God, I would never go into psychology. Turns out I kind of did. But it's interesting. I really appreciate business, and I appreciate business because I actually think it's the best and most applicable playground to grow personally that I have ever found. More than academia, more than, and I'm going to say entrepreneurial businesses, let me clarify, rather than any other, healthcare, all things. Like when you put yourself in front of the market and you have to succeed or you fail, when there's no mediation between you and the world, you have to learn, you have to grow, and you have to become more self-aware. So that evolved into how do people show up best in business? And that turned out, part of the answer to that is they have to work really, really well with others. So that really started it. And I've been literally coaching on this, I think, since I was 21 or 22, which is a long time ago now, almost 40 years. So yeah, so it's always been a passion. I love it. I find it endlessly fascinating and motivating. I'm always learning. I'm certainly not done. And I keep had a new insight today. I'm super excited about sharing in my podcast. So for me, it's just endlessly interesting. Yeah.
So Shannon, to set a baseline, what kind of teams are we talking about in terms of in business?
Thank you. Because teamwork, if you think about just talk about teamwork, there's a standard level of teamwork. All companies have that. And I would say most professions have that, or you're not going to get much accomplished. But the kind of teamwork that I'm talking about is what we call at Strategic Coach unique ability teamwork. So this isn't as opposed to someone just doing what they're really good at. This is doing what they're really, really good at, and they love doing it. So this involves not just the head, but I would say the heart and the will, which is your hands or gut, depending on what anatomy you prefer. So it's really about engaging the whole person, not just someone intellectually. And it's a very different beast when you do that. And where it has the most room for expression is in entrepreneurial companies. So with entrepreneurs, again, because they have zero mediation between them and the world, they have to win or they fail, then the unique ability teamwork actually becomes an incredible advantage that otherwise simply is not possible.
You said the word expression. You didn't say execute or anything. Was that on purpose?
Mm-hmm. Yep, it is. I mean, expression is where it starts. It turns into execution in terms of results. But I'm going to talk through some of the principles as I was preparing for today. It's like, how do I help build a great team? And I spend a lot of time doing it. I love doing it with our company, with our companies, with our clients' companies, one-on-one in groups, you name it, it's my jam. But really it's about how can we have the fullest expression of a human? Because I think if someone's aligned with their head, heart, and gut, then they are the most contributing, most impactful, make the biggest difference, and are also the happiest and the healthiest. And if any one of those things is out of line, you don't have the full expression of someone. So that's kind of a little bit my life philosophy.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Shannon, I want to turn it over to you now just to sort of lay out your philosophy when it comes to team building. Then we'll bring in the rest of the gang after that.
Excellent. So these are kind of some of the steps that I go through. And number one is always, and people have heard me say it a lot, know thyself. I think if someone goes in ignorant of who they are, how they strive, how their personality plays out, if they don't know what really deeply motivates them, you're a very unconscious designer or leader of a team. You're also an unconscious contributor if you don't know any of those things. So if presuming you're the one in charge of creating or building a team, you have to know yourself. You have to know your strengths. You have to know your non-strengths. You have to be accepting of those. If you deny any part of that, I think you will just be minimally successful. So that's number one. And that in coach terms, strategic coach terms, that's your unique ability, but there's lots of phenomenal profiles, which a couple of these characters are very familiar with, that can help start you on the road to that. Number two is unique ability without direction, also kind of useless. So you really have to know what you want to accomplish. What is your end goal? What's your mission? And it's really important to know this and to communicate it to people, because if they don't know how to direct their unique abilities, having a conversation about this today with somebody, it goes off to the side, goes in their own direction, may or may not support what you're up to as an organization. So if you don't know what you want, you also, I like saying what to do, but I also like doing, if you don't have it, it won't work. That's kind of how you know something's true. So if you don't know what you want, you're not going to get it, and you won't actually attract and retain the best people to do it. Number three is find what we call great who's. So there's a whole concept that kind of encapsulates unique ability and teamwork, which is who, not how. So instead of us trying to do all the hows, which is, you've got big goals or things you want to accomplish, and then our lovely, rugged individual brains go, oh, how am I going to do that? And where you just were excited 2 seconds ago, now you're not, because you're now at the bottom of the learning curve and you're like, oh God, that looks really steep, right? And instead, and this came from one of our brilliant clients, Dean Jackson, he says, I don't ask myself how, I ask myself who. So who, not how, has become a major theme. And it's different than delegation, because you're actually finding someone who's better at it than you are. You're finding a unique ability who actually is already doing it. He's already superb at it. And you can align with them and utilize their talent, not use them, but utilize their talent to help get where you're going. So finding really great who's, and entrepreneurs are weirdly good at this. I can't tell you how many times I've been dismayed in a conversation thinking that the person I was talking to had no idea how to find this who. And then midway through, they go, oh, actually, I've friends with this person on LinkedIn, or I know that this person, I've been talking to them for months. And I'm like, dude, I thought you didn't know anybody. And that turns out we're just really good at building our bench is the truth of that. Number four is, now that you've got this great team, you have to, what I call, pass the baton. So if unique ability teamwork is a lot like a relay race, there are two rules, not being a relay race runner, but I've read about this and people have told me two things are really important. One is have the right runner in the right position in the race. Number two, don't drop the darn baton, right? But that means also you have to pass it. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck. A lot of team members get stuck too, because they go to pass it, but then they keep a death grip. So we call that delegation death grip. I also call it when you whip the baton at someone's head and run in the other direction. That's a delegation drive-by. There's lots of ways to mess this up. So pass the baton well. We have a great tool like in Coach called the impact filter, which is actually available to everybody, which is a great way to get what you want out of your head and into someone else's hands. And then hold people accountable to that. I don't want to miss that step. But really the fifth official one is to celebrate wins and encourage growth and progress. If it's not rewarding to work for you because you take it for granted that people are going to do things, and you don't celebrate how people have contributed, again, they won't stay with you. So to really have a team that is sticky with you in the best way, and that acknowledge the progress and not acknowledge their unique contributions, celebrate the wins, stop for a second. And then it's like, oh, now that we have this level of capability, what's the next level of commitment and courage we want to embark on so we can keep growing? Because top performers don't want to stay static. They don't want to plateau. They want to keep growing. That is, I think, one of the very underappreciated elements of creating and building a great team, is to really set not terrifying targets, but challenging targets, challenging in a good creative way. So those are my 5 key thoughts. So just to recap, know thyself, know what you want, find great who's, pass the baton, but don't abdicate, just pass it, and then celebrate wins and encourage growth. So those are kind of my super bottom line way of describing how to build a great team.